Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different backgrounds, and just people doing really cool things in their space and seeing if we can hear a bit about their stories and what they're doing, and hopefully translate some of those things into our own lives as well. So I've got one of those people today. Again, as you know, we talk to lots of athletes, we talk to CEOs, entrepreneurs, we talk to a bunch of different people. Again, just doing really cool things. I know I have one of those today. Just before we jump into that, today's session, if you know, is that we've partnered with Thirdsy. And it is sponsored by Thirdsy today, and they create natural products that help athletes and high performers generally get some better quality rest and recovery from physical and mental stress. Their PM Recovery Collagen is a melatonin-free, sedative-free drink powder that helps you get your best quality sleep while supporting joint and muscle repair as well. So you take a sleep before bed and hopefully wake up a lot more energized and ready to go for your busiest work days or your toughest workouts. So if you just go to our on Instagram, if you go into our profile, you'll find that there's a link through to that, or just go directly to Thirdsy. So it's THIRDZ or ZY.com and use the code BIBM20 and you can save 20% on it. So today, I'm really happy to have Meg Jacoby with me today. She became just very recently the first woman to ever go sub 60 in a HYROX pro race, setting the new fastest women's HYROX record ever. And before jumping into HYROX, which I think was relatively recently for Megan as well, she was a Division I runner, also focused on obstacle racing, did some powerlifting, I hope we'll talk about today, and just some of those different functional fitness things. And on top of all that, I know that she's an active mom and has her own HYROX training program and coaches athletes as well. So first of all, I know that we talked just before you came on here that you were trying to squeeze in a workout and also do all of those things with your people as well. So thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. I thank you for tolerating me, being a couple minutes late and maybe not in my best dressed version of myself, but
real life though, real life.
Yeah, this is the authentic Meg. This is pretty much the way I live. So yeah,
well, that's awesome, and congratulations on the world record as well. I mean,
thank you.
Not totally new kind of territory for you, but how's it been so far? How's the reaction been to
that? It's been an amazing week, and the reason I say that is obviously it's connected me to some really awesome people like you and some great opportunities to kind of obviously share my story a little bit and hopefully inspire people. Especially the women, especially the moms that maybe kind of relate to me and my story. But also just the outpour of love and support from the community, HYROX community, but also like my local community, all the members that go to my gyms and just friends and family, and just that support is so important because I think we all we go through the highs and lows of performance and training and all of that stuff. And a lot of the time people don't see the low moments. We always see the high moments, but having the support in those big moments, the times that it does go really well, it does give that kind of extra motivation and push when times are hard or things aren't going exactly perfectly. And I think that's just really important. So I'm really, really blessed and lucky to have that.
Yeah. And when again, I said it isn't completely new territory for you to do really well in these events, but was that something was this an unexpected thing to do that much, that well again? Or was it just kind of a realization of, oh yeah, I knew I was going to be able to do it. And that was my plan going in. What was that like for you?
It was a little bit of both. So just a little background. My second this is my first year doing HYROX. I've only been doing competing in this event for 7 months. My first race was the end of September. And my second race in November, I ended up breaking the world record at that time. And just my second race ever. So
wow. Yeah.
Thanks. It was
That's
very,
great.
see, that was very unexpected at that point, because I think I was so new to it, and there's still so much to learn as about yourself as an athlete, how to approach it. So that was really, really unexpected. I would say this was still unexpected, but with the caveat that I felt super, super fit the last couple months. About a month ago, I went over to Sweden and I competed with Michaela Norman is her name, and she was actually the woman who had broken my world record. And then we took the women's HYROX doubles world record together about a month ago. So I kind of had this really strong feeling that I was in like my best shape that I've been in this HYROX game so far. And the getting that doubles world record was it was an awesome experience. It was great to team up with another woman who, like, she broke the record for me, and then she beat me in 2 races that I've run against her. So that was really, really empowering, I think, for us to be able to come together and be like, hey, like, let's, we both like having these awesome times, and we're both super competitive, and we're both very comparable athletes. Like, let's do it. Like, this would be so cool. So that was really fun. And then based on how I felt in that race, I was like, I'm ready to, like, I can just feel it. Like, I just feel like I have another gear that I haven't been able to show yet. To go under an hour, that was definitely a bigger surprise. And hearing it, like, it was funny because in the race, there's a live feed, and the beautiful thing about HYROX is there's a timing system. So people on the live feed are saying she's this far ahead, and they're throwing all the stats out there, and I have no idea. I'm just like running the race, and then starting halfway through, the MCs are starting to say it on the, they're saying it to everybody in the building. And so I start hearing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe it. Like, this is crazy. So it was really great because it obviously gives that extra push, because it doesn't feel good or easy, the entire time. So, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but I was I was alone for a lot of the race. So it was one of those things where at that point it's you versus you, and anything that helps, like, is much appreciated. So so starting to hear that I could go under an hour was really, really motivating. So that was cool. Yeah.
Very cool. You kind of mentioned it there, and I think it probably shows, I know you've talked about before that you've always been known as a gritty athlete, regardless of which different thing you've been in. And that's part of it too, right? Is the resilience of going through that when you don't have somebody pushing you right beside you the whole time. So where does that come from for you? Like, is that something that you've always had, or is it something that you've developed over time?
Definitely I've developed over time to some degree, but I think it's kind of like just the mindset that my parents instilled in my brother and I. And we're both just like, we might never be the most talented athlete in whatever we're doing, but my parents really instilled this, like, doesn't matter if you have the most talent, like, you want to be the hardest working person on the field, on the court, on the track, whatever it may be. And kind of having that, like, my parents never cared if we won or lost or anything. Like, it was always like about leaving it all out there. And that's something that fortunately I learned very early how to do. And it's just really been, especially in an event like this, like, there are so many moments where, like, you're shifting gears, you're going from a crazy spiked heart rate down back to running and movements that some I'm very good at and some I'm not as good at. And so it's having that of, like, resilience and that tenacity has very much helped me in this. So
So when you're going through those spots, I mean, because this could be in basically in anything in life, really. But um, I think regardless, you're probably going to have times, whether it's maybe when you're pushing or when you're doing a long run or anything like that. There's times where your brain starts to tell you, okay, I'm just going to stop. Do you have specific things that you do to try to get past that? I know I've talked to other people, and sometimes it's that they have a real kind of regiment. They sing to themselves, they count, they do other things
yeah,
to take their mind away from it. Do you have anything that you do?
yeah. So I've coached running for a really long time.
Mm,
I coached at my former high school for about 6 years. I actually just recently had to kind of give it up to pursue this journey for myself. But
mhm.
one thing that I learned and that I always taught my athletes was get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's not always about like no one feels good, right? No one's feeling good. I'm not feeling good. My competition's probably not feeling good. But accepting that it's going to hurt, accepting that it's going to be difficult, and just knowing that and just saying this is what it is. And the more comfortable you get with that thought, the easier it is to keep pushing through it. And that's something that I've just tried to really adopt in my mind. Like the other thing, and I tell people this also has been a trick that's helped me many times, is I try to always approach every race with the glass half full mindset. So when I get to station 4, in my mind, I'm already halfway done. I always also think about it's only an hour and whatever time of my entire day. That's it. I have 24 hours in a day. This is 1 hour of suffering. And then guess what? I'm going to feel great after, because we all go through that where it hurts really bad. And then like 10, 15, 20 minutes later, we're back up walking around. Like most of the time we're fine and we recover well very quickly. I mean, that's not always the case, but a lot of the time
Yeah.
you're like, 20 minutes, you're kind of, I mean, you might not want to do it again, but you're up, you're walking, you're talking, and you are so happy with how you feel after. So I always try to trick my brain. And that's one thing I think helps. And no matter what you're doing, if you can change every little thing into a positive, um, like, like I said, like I'm on the 5th station, I'm only have 3 more. Only. I love the word only. I only have 3 more. I only have 2 more. I only have 100 wall balls, and then I get to collapse on the ground right there and I'm done. Um, and I've always approached running that way too. So any running race I'd be like, I only have 1 mile left, or whatever. And if you can do that, I think that that's a big help. So
That's really powerful. It's great, that word too. You're right. It does make a
yeah,
difference. Just to, the
such
the
a
semantics
simple.
do make a difference.
Exactly. It's like the simplest word, but if you frame it in the right way, it really can help. So,
Yeah. Okay, so the other thing is that as we came on here, we were talking about how how packed your day is and how many things
yeah.
you have going on, and so maybe I'll ask you first: is you're a mom, so there are probably lots of people that are listening to hear that you're a mom and do all those things that a busy mom has to do. How do you first of all find some balance with that? But how do you balance what you do in your athletic training as well as business as well as obviously what you do as a mom?
Yeah. It's become very much about like, there are certain times of day that my time with my daughter is very much prioritized, and it's like our special time.
Mhm.
And that's usually right before, first thing in the morning, we're getting ready for school. We're talking about school. I'm getting, we're packing her lunch and we're doing those little things. And then in a lot of the time it's in the evening where we're reading before bed together. Um, I know this is probably like kind of weird to people, but it's just her and I in my house. And it's been just her and I for a long time. So we have a
Mhm.
really, really special bond. Um, and I snuggle with her before bed every night. Like usually I'm in there. A lot of the time I wake up in the middle of the night in her bed, and that's just the way we do it. But those are like very special times of day for us. I try to always help coach any team she's on, whether I tend not to be the head person, just because it's a little too chaotic, but I always try to help and like show her that like this that she's doing is important to me too. Um, the big thing with my daughter. She's 8, and I've always exposed her. Obviously, fitness has been a huge part of my life. I'm sure if you've seen, it kind of would have had to be for me to get to this point. So exposing her really early on to just what an active lifestyle looks like is also a huge part of why we're able to do what we're doing right now. I think if I hadn't been bringing her to, I've been running, I ran with her in my jogger every single day for the first 4 years of her life, or walking with it, or by the time she was a year and a half old, I would put her in my like backpack carrier and I'd work out at the gym with her on my back. And of course, these are a little unconventional things that you don't see every day, but bringing her with me, showing her how important it is to me, has also kind of made it important to her in her own way. And it makes it easier to bring her to the gym because she likes to go, and it's what she knows. And I think it's been great because I think we don't see kids outside playing the way that we did when we were kids. Like, we were super active. My brother and I and all the kids in the neighborhood were out on our bikes and we're playing outside the second we got home from school until it was dark. And you just don't see that as much today. So it's been great that I have this opportunity to kind of show her how to be active and have fun and be moving her body without it being like, it's just, the world's changed. So it's kind of that thing. And now that she's a little older, it gets like, she understands. It's nice that I get to say to her, hey, like, I have a really big goal that I'm working towards right now. And I always tell her, this is a very big conversation we have almost every day. I always say to her, I really appreciate you being understanding that this is what we have to do today for this 1 hour, because I have a goal I'm working towards. And I'm just hoping that if she does, I mean, I'm sure it's not all connecting right now, but I'm hoping later down the road, she realizes, like, that's what it took. Like, there were times when we had to make a commitment, and it might have not always been what either of us wanted to do, but that's what it takes to achieve something or accomplish something or make something happen that's important to you. So
Meg, when she sees you, I mean, she probably she is getting old enough that she's seeing that
yeah,
you're being very successful in what you're doing with that. I mean, that's the one
yeah.
thing is, I mean, when you have that, I'm sure you're celebrating with her as well.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you do, like, what is it that you would, you've touched on a bunch of things that I think are really important, but what, with her seeing that in you, aside from her learning that it's part of a healthy lifestyle, for her seeing you accomplish those things, what do you think, like, what do you want her to be able to take away from that as she gets older? Like the fact of seeing her mom be able to
Yeah.
accomplish these things.
Just truly that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. And I think that even I've been guilty of it, where in life, like, there have been times where I did have every excuse and I used it. There were times where I was like, just can't do it today. Like, too busy, toddler's not cooperating, or whatever the case may be. And I think instilling the mindset that it's not always about what we want to do, but it's about what we need to do. Motivation, we don't always have motivation. None of us do. We're not always 100. No athlete in the world is always motivated 100% of the time. That's just not, that's a feeling. I think what separates people is the willingness to do it, whether you want to or not. And I hope that kind of shows her that, like, and just the no quit. Like, we don't quit, we don't give up, whether it goes, even if it goes amazing and you're having that spectacular moment, there's always another ceiling to keep reaching towards. There's always another goal that you can keep working towards. And it has been really amazing. Like, she's watched every single one of my races. Thankfully, there's a live stream, and they post it, and she watches them live. And like, seeing her so excited for me is it's the reminder that it is all worth it. And even like, she makes more sacrifices than I do, because for me it's not a sacrifice, because this is like my goal, my dream. I'm so fortunate that I get to do this. but she's definitely making sacrifices, you know, to support me and to be at the gym with me sometimes when she doesn't want to be. So I just try to remind her of like how grateful I am that she is so cooperative a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So
And the other thing that you're doing as well, Meg, is that you've, I mean, I know you've coached for a long time and things like that, but you also have, I mean, I know you have programs now and programs around how to do some of the things that you're doing now in HYROX for those people who don't know how to do that and stuff. But what's the kind of building a business part been like for you? I mean, when that's something that you know, it can be very similar in some ways in the coaching part, but the other part
yeah,
is, you know, how's it been like learning how to do that and going through building a business as well?
it's been really exciting because I feel like this is something I've really wanted to do for a long time. And I guess I just didn't exactly know
Mhm.
how. For the last like 2, 3 years, I've also been like basically putting on HYROX classes,
Mhm.
like that kind of hit style class, like for my friends. And then that's kind of grown. Um, so I felt really like I felt like I had the tools. I just didn't exactly know how to like I didn't maybe have the platform. I'm, you know, just didn't really have um all the pieces to like start it. And then I kind of it was a really nice surprise after I'd gotten started in my own journey as an athlete that I started getting asked to coach. And
Yeah.
then I was like, "Oh, this is amazing because like this is genuinely what I love doing. I love helping people push themselves, push past what they believe maybe they're capable of. I love helping motivate people." So, it just kind of became a thing where I was like, "Oh, this is just another awesome thing that's happened for me on this journey." Um, and yeah, that was like another just like big surprise. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't like expect
Yeah.
people to ask for advice from me, you know? But I'm so glad they do. And I try to answer every question, like anytime anyone asks, because I know people are taking time out of their day because they believe in me like enough to ask me a question or to reach out even in just support. And I think that like that means a lot. So I try to be really I just try to be as helpful as I can be because I want to see the sport continue to grow. I want people to know that this is something that anybody can do and attain, and it's hard and it's hard work,
Mhm.
but everybody is capable of it. And yeah, so I just want to like keep helping like motivate people to just give it a try because I think if you go to a HYROX event, I have not heard anybody ever say like, "Oh, I'll never come do this again." Usually
Yeah.
it's like, "This is amazing and I'm hooked," and it really draws you in because it challenges you, but it's also such it's just an amazing environment of positivity and hype and just all of those things. So it really draws you in.
So, you know, one thing that flows really nicely because I think one thing we always ask everybody to do when they've come on is a couple of you know, tips that people listening or and maybe this has kind of triggered something with somebody and I know your story will anyway because there's probably tons of people that you know, maybe I believe that they're not able to do this or fit it into their schedule and things like that to be able to do something like go to their first HYROX event or an OCR
Right.
obstacle race or something like that. Do you have a couple of tips on to kind of how people can kind of start that journey? A couple of things that they might want to do to be able to get themselves moving towards being able to do an event.
Yeah, I think like the I never want people to think like, "Oh, I could never do that because I don't have 4 hours a day to train like
Mhm.
Meg does," you know?
Yeah.
And I think that the coolest part about HYROX and a lot of these types of hybrid events is there are so many different ways to train to approach it. I come from a running background, so obviously running is very it's a huge part of my like weekly training. But it also always has been. And that's not something everybody has, but you can get so much benefit from doing machine work, biking, rowing, ski erg if you have those tools available to you at your gym, or like if you love the lifting part, you know, you're already going to be very well off in a lot of the strength stations, but there are so many different ways to approach it. And I know, like, I think the running part intimidates a lot of people because it's a significant amount of running. It really, it's 5 miles. It's not, it's not nothing. Let's put it that way. But there are a lot of ways in which you can prepare for that. Like even just walking like regularly or walk jogging, like there's always a starting point. And I think you just have to remember that where I start, where this person starts, where this person starts, that's all different and it's always going to be different. And just focus on like where you started and what your goal is and where you're heading. And it's amazing the progress people see. Like once they decide, if you make that decision and you say, hey, I'm going to do this, and you commit to that, the process and the progress you see really quickly is super, super uplifting and inspiring, I think. And that's one thing I've seen from the athletes I coach. And it tends to always be for me, like, because I think of my running background, usually it's people who don't have as big of a background. So that's the thing they're trying to improve the most. And that's so fun to see because it is hard and it's hard work. But when you see the progress, it's like people get so excited about it. And that's been an awesome part for me as in the coaching side of things, is like helping people in that space has been really, really fun.
Yeah, I'm sure taking the inspiration away from the people that you're helping as you go is probably almost as big as being able to accomplish things yourself.
Absolutely. Seriously.
So, Meg, I guess well, one thing is just before we kind of get people so that they can find out more about your stuff and everything. But one thing is, so what's next for you? I mean, I know there's kind of world championship stuff and everything, but what's that look like over the next little while for you?
Yeah, so really just I feel very confident with where I'm at. So it's just maintaining. If I can improve in a couple areas, every race, you always have wins, and I wouldn't say they're losses, but there's always areas of improvement. There's always something I can look back on. And it's funny because in every race, something different goes differently. So I'm like, okay, I did really well here this time, but then this kind of suffered. So for me, just leading into the world championships, it's just trying to like pull everything together, keep doing what I'm doing. It's the training is clearly working for me. I'm very lucky that it's just clicked and it's clicking. And I believe in what I'm doing so much that we're just going to kind of keep doing it and just continue to get prepared. I'm certainly not going in thinking like I've got this in the bag. There are some amazing women that I compete with that on any given day could beat me. I had a great day this weekend, but I believe that there are other women just as capable of doing a time similar or whatever. So, I still have that pressure on me, and I certainly don't think like it's a shoe. I'm not a shoe-in. I know I have to keep putting in the work. I know I'm going to have to work really hard in that race if I'm going to win. So just getting that down, the strategy down, staying healthy, just all of those things. But on the mental side, it's like just getting the strategy down, continuing to believe in myself. I think we all have those moments of where doubt kind of can creep in and you're like, oh no, like this, I didn't do very well in this, and this person's really great at this. And you see what people are doing on social media and just kind of blocking that all out and just really sticking with what I know and what I believe in for myself. But yeah, and then the World Championship is at the end of May in the UK. So first time I'll be there. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's going to be an amazing event. I'm really excited to see all of the people that have qualified. I have a few athletes that have qualified in age group. So like that'll be really exciting to get to be there and support them in person, especially at a huge race like that. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Very cool. Well, I'm sure if people haven't been following you, they will be following you now, because your story is pretty amazing, and I think being able to see the event very soon, which is nice, so they'll be able to kind of see what you're doing over the next little while, and actually be able to hopefully catch some of that competition as well. So if people are trying to follow you and maybe some of the things that you're doing, even with your programs, if they want to kind of try to tackle something like this, what are the best ways of being able to follow you?
Just on Instagram is probably the best, and my handle's Jacoby. The O is actually a 0. But you could probably just search Megan Jacoby. I don't think there's that many Megan Jacobys out there. There's probably a handful, but and then I have a link in my bio for my program, or shoot me a DM. Happy to answer questions always. But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been fun. So
no problem. And what we'll do is we'll make sure in the show notes that your Instagram handle is there to make sure people can get through that. Definitely take a look in the links as well, because I know there's some really great stuff with your programs and everything in there as well. But and knowing you have such a busy day today, thank you very much for taking the time, Megan. Your the information you shared is awesome, and I'm sure people really took some great inspiration away from it. So thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it as well.
All right. So, and everybody else, we will talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves. All right. See you, mate.
Take care.